Инвестиционная привлекательность и улучшение делового климата – основы для экономического роста. Нужен ли диалог бизнеса и власти? Что даст экономике регионов поддержка молодых предпринимателей? И какие есть новые возможности и риски для инвесторов?
Зрители, добрый день, уважаемые гости нашего форума. Сегодня наша сессия посвящена женскому предпринимательству, женщине в бизнесе, лидерству и культуре наставничества. Об этом мы поговорим с нашими прекрасными спикерами. Я с удовольствием представляю спикеров нашей сессии. Мария Афонина, по образовательной деятельности мастерской управления «Сенеж». АНО «Россия. Страна возможностей». Мария, доброе утро.
Vice Director for Education Senior Management Workshop, Russia Land of Opportunity, Anush Gasparyan, Co-founder and Commercial Director of Fashion Consulting Group,
Евгения Пацина, заместитель
Евгения Пацина, Deputy Director of HR Policy, Head of the Department for Personal Recruitment, Assessment and Adaptation, MMC Norilsk Nikkel. Hello, Evgenia. Hello. Larisa Bogdanova, Advisor to the President Center for Strategic Research. Hello, Larisa. And today with us in the studio of Veronika Pashkova, Unity Goodwill Ambassador. And Mariana Skragan. Hello everyone. Mariana Skragan, Ross Congress Foundation Director General of Business Priority. So, dear friends, I think today is a very interesting topic for us, and we always hear that there is something like a women and man leadership, and there is something like a key point and key differences between these two items, and especially because of this, there are less women in business than men. So we will try to find out the answers to all of these questions today, and we will try to find out what women mean in the business. So first question is, how can you characterize women leadership? Is there women leadership? So first of all, Larisa, let's start with you. What do you think? What is the women leadership, and what is the main advantage of this? So I think the strongest point of women leadership is that women are more effective in the very difficult conditions, in my opinion, and men are more effective in situations when you know everything and when you have to mobilize all your forces. And women, they're all more about multifunctionality and emotional stuff. So women is the leader of the transformation processes, and Yuliana Slashova also joined as chairwoman of the managing board of Soyuz Multfilm Film Studio, chairwoman of the managing board of the Association of Animal Film Organizations. So we are discussing women leadership, and Evgenia, we give a floor to you. What is the women leadership for you? Well, first of all, for me, what is women leadership? Is the belief in others and solve conflicts and solve problems. Is the main difference of the women leadership. So the woman is the leader who solves conflict situations. Maria, what do you think? Women leadership for me is the way how you solve problems, and we should think that it's something like a soft force. Well, I think that leader is someone who has some authority and who can join people, who can work with groups, and there are lots of positive items that I can mention, starting from the charismatic person and optimistic and so on and so forth. And in all that sense, I think that the ability of men and women, they are all equal. But the question is in ambitions, as I think, and motivation. Great. It's a very interesting point of view. So, Yuliana, what do you think? Unfortunately, we do not hear you.
Hello,
everyone. I think that leadership, according to my personal experience, is the set of personal characteristics and the personal experience, social environment, and maybe we should find a balance between men and women. But in general, I think that women leadership is that women, according to their nature, can pay attention to details and be patient and solve crisis management problems. I think for the nearest future it's the most important part. And women working with staff use very gentle skills. Unfortunately, we cannot hear very clear the speaker. It's important that women can make the priorities and pay attention to details. This is the most general.
So we are back in our studio. So Veronica, I would say that women leadership, the difference between it and the male leadership, well, there is something I support everyone, but I would like to add that there is adaptability, creativity, attention to details. I believe and support this point of view, but I would also like to say that women are perfectionists, sometimes too much. And I also say that women leadership is the backside of the coin. When there are less investments, they get more profit. It's a very interesting point. So, Mariana, your point? Well, I am going to be short. So the main idea is to lead. It's obvious that men and women can lead. The only point is, how do they do this? They use different tools. Men lead through their mind and women lead through their heart. So a woman leader is a transformator, a conflict solver, is the best crisis solver, it's the best leader who leads through emotions, and it's also a perfectionist who achieves the best results. Very interesting. So having pictured a woman leader, let's talk how can we develop women leadership. I would like to give the floor to Maria Afonina, Senish, one of the best programs. It's the program Woman Leader, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, it started in 2020, and there were several episodes, and this program allows to educate the new generation of women. So the first question is, do we need such a program for women, for leaders? Or is it enough to just make a program for leaders and not to make any gender differences? Thank you for the question. I'm going to tell about the program and I'm going to express my opinion about the question. So now, in fact, worldwide business schools and universities of worldwide companies create special programs that are aimed at developing and showing how women can be leaders. I think it's a trend, it's a tendency, and I don't think that it's for nothing. It doesn't mean that not only one university, one school does it, it happens all over the world. So it means there must be something about it. In 2020, so there is a platform, presidential platform, together with the Eurasian Women Forum. They were the first to launch such a program, such a large-scale program. And when the program was launched, our aim was to develop modern, to teach women to be leaders, both classically and something from the modern world. We talked about development, and we also talked about empowerment of women when it comes to solving financial problems, and also involving women into special projects. So, and something that the previous speakers talked about, we took everything, all the models and all the qualities that we were given by the nature, and we made them better. We also took into account all the negative, all the downsides, just because it's obvious. Sometimes there are positive aspects, sometimes there are negative aspects, and we know that so the downsides should be bettered. And so when a woman has co-founders, co-workers, when she has a mentor, she's able to develop really fast. And the program has been existing for a year and a half, and we have already had 3 classes. We made several programs for the South Federal region. And we have from many regions of Russia, there are people who participate in the program. And we have developed a program. We have developed 72 social projects that are aimed at solving social problems in the country. So the projects are various, just supporting the weak citizens, developing the tourism inside the country, social adaptation of women who are in difficult life situations, and a lot more. So just taking everything into account, we can say that all the women involved in the project, so the number of these people is 30,000 people. I think it's a nice story. The projects are really live. They still exist. Though when we developed the project and we thought about it, we didn't really thought about becoming the accelerator of social projects. We have such programs in Russia, but we understand that education and development doesn't exist in theory only. We must listen to mentors, to educators from all over the world. And we know that we must listen to them in order to develop, because without them, we will still be able to go further, but just not as fast as we would like to. And I'm really happy to know that these projects exist and develop. We have, for example, a project Athens that developed projects for cities in Russia. So developing small cities and how to develop these small cities and make them more attractive for tourists. So the idea is for the cities who would like to develop tourism in their town, they don't know how to do it. They don't know the algorithm. So just we took the brand of a small town, Urupinsk. The mayor of the town was a participant of the project. And also in Borovsk, in Kaluzhskaya Oblast. And at the current moment, they are discussing the idea of including these projects into the main repositorium. We also have our personal goals. So these personal goals are applied to the program, and the program takes place for about 4 months, and there are different aims. But I'd like to give an example of a name that was developed by Ekaterina Tymyakina. She was the deputy in Rostovskaya Oblast. Now she is of the State Duma. She's the member of the State Duma. So her idea was to get rid of social injustice and to help teenagers. And there was a practical request. There was a request from a mother of a 14-year-old boy who gets money, but he received money for working, but since he was only 14 years old, he had to get the money back. So that's why the project was launched, and Ekaterina is personally involved in it because she wants to be active, she wants to be part of the society. So that allowed her to develop the law that is going to help lots of teenagers all over the country. So this is one of the examples of personal initiative that our women practice. There are a lot of women who didn't have anything to do with the government. For example, Evgenia Dolatova from St. Petersburg, who is a ballerina in Mariinsky Theater, and She's the founder of Artist. So she's for patriotic development. She wants to develop patriotic feelings in our society in Russia. And so she became an expert in the parliament of the State Duma responsible for developing patriotic feelings in the youth. So this program personally touches upon my heart. So, and now we are ready to accept new students, future students, and we are going to enlarge the horizons. So, and our idea is not to only work with people who live and work in the Russian Federation, but also with women from abroad. So, and if you'd like to participate, you can go to our website женщиналидер.rf, and throughout March you can apply for the program. We think that the program is going to be a great support for women, for developing professionalism, and just we want to involve them in our society.
Thank you very much, and you're true. That's a very interesting program. I think that when you apply to this program, everything that you have in you given you impetus, and you start developing your skills and believe in yourself. But we will discuss about this further. Now I want to have a step forward. We know all the statistics, and we fix the statistics, the gap between the involvement of men and women in economic sphere. Especially it's about these professional specialties and majors that are connected with engineering and technological majors and institutions. We can talk about data a lot, but in general in Russia, in STEM, we work with less than 3 or 4.
Общаться, задавать вопросы, приходить на вебинары, на семинары, конференции, рассказывать о себе, о своих достижениях. И в прошлом году, в 2021, был запущен такой проект «Награда. Талантливая женщина в добывающей отрасли». И было подано всего 237 заявок из 24 компаний отрасли. И по итогам рассмотрения всех заявок 63 женщины вошли в финал, и 3 сотрудницы Норникеля стали победителями. В номинации «Проект года» победила заместитель главного механика по зданиям и сооружениям, молодая девушка, вот с такими длинной косой, красавица, молодая, энергичная, презентовала свой проект. Социальный проект года — инженер-технолог женщина. Личное достижение — главный специалист управления устойчивого развития. Это все наши девушки с предприятий, с Норильска, с Мончегорска.
From Norilsk and Mochegorsk, from our different industries, around 11 representatives from Norilsk Nickel, about 67 representatives of Norilsk Nickel entered this project, and Norilsk Nickel is the company who supported by the general director. All women who wished to apply applied. Were invited to the meeting with the general director, to have a meeting, to have a chat, and so the status of this project increased dramatically, and so the participation in this project is highlighted a lot. Well, what are the plans? We plan to create a club of young managers, a cycle of interviews with leadership, with the story of success, a workshop on equal opportunities in women leadership, and launching of the program on leadership and mentorship and coaching as well, to support our women. So in a nutshell, that's it. And we also want to mention that informational expert support were from leading universities of Russia, St. Petersburg University, Mrs. Siberian Federal University as well. Evgenia, thank you very much. I think that all these programs are very important, especially in the cities who are traditionally not very involved in all these activities and activity popularizing stuff. You mentioned Monchegorsk and Norilsk. They are very far, and I think it's very important to participate in the education program. For example, it is not so easy to come to Senish, for example, to study. So Masha, for example, told us today about this. So tell everyone about Senish, and everyone should come to Maria to participate in this educational program. Very soon, I think new women leaders will change Norilsk and Monchegorsk as well. We already mentioned the questions about impact on the new format of the economy to the competences, to the staff and to the leaders, to the economy active people, and we talked about increasing opportunity of engineering skills, and we also mentioned the skills that are of women leaders. And you mentioned transformation type of leadership. What is this, and why do you think that it's a very strong skill?
Yeah, I would like to show a presentation, and in reality, I'm really inspired and have been inspired by Peters. He said about 20 years ago, but I think the words became just got their meaning. So the fact that women being leaders is just the strategic idea of the new century. And the numbers show that, in fact, women more often are more successful in lots of spheres, especially when they are leaders as well, thanks to their psychological qualities that we have mentioned in our questionnaire. So it's something like supporting people, and that is really up to date nowadays, and we are just something really discussed in our world nowadays. So, but nowadays, so why is it important to be transformational leaders, and why are women more likely to be in this type of leadership than men? So in standard situations, just in the previous centuries, when we have the situation of mobilization, so receptional leadership is definitely more acceptable when it comes to traditional management. But when it comes to transformational management, it's about innovations, creativity, and about such a more personal inspiration and leadership, energy. And when it comes to transformational leadership, James McGregor Burns discussed it, and so he discussed which type of leadership can lead to a better success. So here are the four main components that are typical for transformational leadership, which are creating inspirational visionary. By the way, women are, so if women, they involve the company into this visionary. So they know that women will never, they know that people will never participate in the projects, and they will never see any point in the projects they don't really take part in. So that's why they start leading after themselves. The second point is supporting creativity, appraising it. And it seems that there are stereotypes that women are braver, that they are more ready for experiments, they are against standards, just standardized tools. This is something typical for women. Well, definitely developing people in the team is another point of transformational leadership, something typical for women because women and transformational leadership is always about team decisions, being ready to listen to people, being ready to accept other opinions, being open-minded, and sometimes accepting the opinions that are quite the opposite from yours. And the fourth point is just being ready to achieve the results. And I also love Michelle Bachelet's words that a woman is invited when order is needed and when the result is needed. So in fact, it's true. Women are really have a more practical approach. You can see it, and we can see what women create, and you can see it. And also, once again, a kind of a table, so that women are more emotional compared to transactional leadership. Transformational leadership is something about leadership, about motivation, values, stimulating creativity, being innovative, and there is more accent on team interests, on supporting cooperation. And once again, something that is typical for the modern world is, and for women as well, is motivating through the values. This is something that should be talked about. Well, in fact, I think if we talk about it from the point of view of something basic, this is what transformational leadership is. So the more chaotic the situation is, the more need for transformational leadership there is. Okay, thank you a lot. So let's talk. We've talked about women leaders. Let's talk about corporate government. I'm going to once again mention a research that was carried out by the company Deloitte, according to which in the economy there are about 50% women and men, so 46% of women and 54% of men. But if we take into account the system of corporate government, we'll see that management posts are taken only by 20% of women. And at the same time, the company also found out that there are several connections. For example, so the number of management positions taken by women depends on the sphere. So, for example, 40% of women take management positions in the sphere of education, but when it comes to security, only 6%. So the second connection that was found out is dependability of leadership on the value of company. So in smaller companies, there are more women leaders than in the bigger companies. So taking everything into account, the number of women in a company depends on the sphere the company works in and the size of the company. So I would like to ask Juliana, what do you think? What does the sphere balance depend on? So why are there more women in some spheres? Does it mean that some women just are more effective in some spheres rather than in the others?
Thank you very much for your question. I think that all the statistics that you gave is currently changing and will change later. And the percentage of women who are on the managing companies in the industrial, in energy fields, in large companies will increase. It's just a dynamics, and it always starts from small points. I think that women can manage the management position of any company, and it doesn't depend on gender factor. As I also mentioned before, the style of manager women is different from men, and I think they need some variety and flexible and creative industries. As a good example is the creative industries where I personally work. It's important to find common points between a lot of different opinions and find some synergy and have a very good dialogue
conflict between different groups. The Federation, the share of women in creative industries is about 50%, which is very good, I think. For example, on Soyuz Multfilm company, in creative sector, most of the share is women. Of course, in operation part is also more women than men, but I'm not talking about this now. But top managers, top producers, creative directors, head of departments of marketing and PR, they are all women. And as I already mentioned, maybe it's understandable why, because women work with their staff with more flexible approach. They use more flexible approach. They concentrate on personality rather than something else, and they understand what tasks they need to be taken. Women can understand the details of the process. They think about strategic approaches and strategic aims. I see on examples of my life and my colleagues, they do not try to obey, and they do not try to. They try to make a partnership relationships with the collective, and I think that it's very important in the creative staff companies. So all sides that in all the characteristics are very important, and I think that's the strongest point of women managers. I think they also need to get some parts from men skills, for example, the time management skills, and some women probably should learn how to organize their time. And especially it's important if you have your kids in your family and you have to get them some attention, and you try to find the balance between work and your family. Being a mother of 3 kids, I understand it very well. Especially why in Soyuz Multfilm there are a lot of women in creative content. In our case, it is understandable because we create content for children and for kids, and it's very variable nowadays and very different. We should know the psychology of kids and children and pay the attention to details. And I think that the perspective for women who want to implement the leadership potential is to choose creative industries. They need to think about career and educational trajectory of their lives, and I think that where there is creativity, there is a women approach. Thank you very much. Thank you, Juliana. It's very interesting speech, and I want to talk with Anush straight away. We already talked about digital economy, about the need to develop technical knowledges in ourselves and different technical skills. But let's think about this question, and let's think what will be after digital economy, what will be post IT technology economy in the world. Many experts said that after the digital we will get into the age of creative industries, and the next one will be creative economy. Anush, what do you think? Are women eager to be in the creative profession, and will they get some advantages in these creative professions after the digital age?
Well, let's first, I'm going to start with the creativity industries. Well, in fact, it's true, yes. So the future is behind the creativity. Creative areas and spheres form our future economy. And just in the nutshell, I can say that the creative area is something related to intellectual activities, something once again related to technologies and innovations. And I think that I imagine the fashion industry, which I've been working in it for 20 years. So fashion industry is one of the most important elements of creative economy, and it runs almost all spheres of creative industries. So, for example, developing new materials, just manufacturing as well, just digital manufacturing of materials. also robotizing the process of creating. This is one of the challenges for creative activities. Also, selling just through the traditional means and through the modern means. So previously it was only offline, but obviously nowadays we buy online as well, and it's just we got used to buying accessories or clothes through our computers. Also, something related to advertisements and consulting. This is something also that moved from offline to online. Some creative agencies. So what I'm trying to say is that fashion industry is indeed creative, one of the most powerful industries. And even though it may be surprising, but fashion industry takes the third place when it comes to having creative employees. So the first place is for IT, and the second place is for advertising, and the third place is taken by fashion industry, such as selling clothes, shoes, accessories. Fashion industry takes the first place when it comes to the number of employees related to creative activities. And the most important point, 2/3 of all the employees in the fashion sphere, in the fashion industry, are women. So just if we take all the employees, 2/3 of women are women. So starting from those who sew clothes to managers. So Tatiana, for example, Popolchuk, who created Wildberries. So Wildberries, which is, we can say that it's company number one when it comes to fashion. Or we can take into account Ksenia Basova. So they created our company, and our company is really successful. So the role of women in fashion industry is enormous. We don't just love clothes, accessories and shoes. We are inspired by it just because we want to look great. But we are also going to develop fashion as well. So if we take into account something like professional qualities, it's obvious that just there must be knowledge. And a woman as a profi is developing in a really fast way. So just in our digital world, with all the technologies, with all the digital creativity and the technology, and all the money is earned by people who have knowledge. And women should, let's take designing, for example. So there are women designers, though there are also a lot of men who are designers. But women when women develop as designers, they not only do they learn to develop and to create something new, but they also should be able to work in different apps, programs, how to cooperate with ministries, how to understand. They need to understand all social elements, how to promote their clothes. It's just obvious that the fashion industry is based on women who are inspired by fashion, who work in this sphere. And for 20 years, we've been gladly cooperating with different companies, and mainly, obviously, it happens so that we've been cooperating with women in our company. And just our company is not an exception. We still have 80% of women, the rest are men. I think it's not something really common and not something nowadays, but still it's something really pleasant and nice. Anush, thank you. Talked about, or we've dwelled upon the research. So why there are more women managers in those or that spheres. And so the second point, we've discussed that there are more women running smaller companies. But once again, the question is, what's a small company? There are also such things as startups or technological projects or just entrepreneurs. So I would like to talk to my colleague who just found her way through startups. So taking into account your startups, could you please tell what's the percentage of men and women as leaders? Yeah, as leaders. Well, when I was preparing for the session, I was asked different questions, and I really decided to think about women leaders. So first, I thought about 0, just because I thought there were no women, and then I started thinking about startups in reality. I have seen lots of startups. The real number is 1,500. I just came up with at least 3 women who created startups and who run them. Well, I don't know the particular number of women in startups, maybe a bit more than 1,500. So what do you think it depends on? So just, does it depend on the fact that startups is something about creativity, or is it about, or because it's something about risks? So I can tell that, first of all, it's a sphere that has no barriers, just because, well, if you want to make a startup, you can just do it. Nobody can prohibit it. Well, there are no real barriers. So the same as, for example, in technological professions that have been talked about. Nobody can prohibit a woman to learn physics, just learn everything, and that's all. The only thing is that not many women try themselves in that sphere because, well, the abilities of women and men differ, and we have to accept it. It's just great that they are really different. So boys are like this, and girls are like that. So as for entrepreneurs, so it's a huge risk. It's no certainty. So technological startups have 4 risks. So the first is that the technology will not just work out, just because the startups are based on the time when this product doesn't exist. So the second risk is that you just don't get money for it, and you've already spent all your money. So the third point is that the market doesn't need your product. Because when you don't have anything, you can just hypothetically discuss it, but when it comes to business, yeah, you can talk a lot about some amazing technology, some sensors that can detect anything, but unless you have sold just one of the detectors, it's a risk, because, well, it may happen that nobody needs it. And the fourth risk is that you may actually fail to manage the company. It's a huge risk. Why? Because leaders of startups, they want to run their company, they have created it, they run it, and they want to manage it. But mainly when a person comes up with an idea, someone from a creative sphere, they are not able to manage their company. This is my professional idea, so it's either you create a project, or you run it. So no great artist can sell their own painting. You can be the greatest artist, but just you won't be able to sell it. So the same is about creative industries. So people who create, they are never producers. So that's why there is management. It's just a must in any creative sphere. The same about high-tech businesses. So somebody creates and somebody manages. And when we talk about, so I can directly answer the question why there are not so many women in startups. Well, just because it's a really risky adventure. And nothing is prohibited, you can go and create anything you want. I just think that men are more prone to risky actions. They can create, they can develop more than women, but when it comes to just to having order, I just support your phrase, when we need order, when we have a more or less stable company, no better manager can be found than a woman. Just because it's something, she will be able to headhunt people in a better way, to assess people in a better way. Well, just because women are more adaptable, the market changes, some partners leave, some partners come, some new ideas come. So when it comes to ordering, just to finding order, this is the perfect job for a woman leader, for a woman manager. It's the same as in any family. If the husband and the wife are asked one and the same question, what do you want from your family? So I just think any woman will say stability, and the man is likely to say something like development. Maybe we should build a new house. Maybe we should create something else. And so this is the balance that should be in the base of relationships between men and women. And the same can be applied to startups. So this is the main word, balance. We've been talking a lot about differences between men and women leadership. We have just taken into account some research that show this disbalance when it comes to numbers and quality of leaders in our business. Is it important to maintain the balance? Do we need to reach the balance? Or is it enough to accept the fact that, well, there are 20% of women managers and 80% of men managers? Or should each company try to find the balance?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the question. And I would like to continue the topic that Mariana was mentioning. Yes, men and women are very different, but nowadays, if we're talking about the topic is development of the leadership among women and entrepreneurship among women and startups and traditional business, especially in creative industries, everything that we already underlined before is becoming very important. Now we discuss it, and it's being discussed on the leading projects during some congresses on international level. So today the topic of women, there is an organization of the UN system in BRICS, in Pacific cooperation, in World Bank, so everything. It's easier to mention where there is no organization talking or caring about women or something connected with women leadership. So the question is why, and why do we need this? Well, we can talk about things that nobody can say something against, that among the main UN question is the aim number 5 is gender equality. However, if we ask the question why do we need this, the involvement of women in the economy, according to the research, the full involvement of the women in the economy, it will help the GDP of the world, more Chinese economy, and one more USA economy. So basically, the women leadership and development of the women entrepreneurship is not only about human rights, it's the potential to the economic growth. On the other hand, if we go back to the balance, on the ADES platform, where the very effective, we see the development of the project of the womenship leadership, and TRIPS advisors said the results that gender balance in companies let us achieve more on 36% more on return of investments than the teams where there are only men or there are only women. Why do we have such a result? Let's remember that women can control 80% of world consumption. So the decision of what we will consume on the level of the family in 80% of the cases is a decision of a woman. And in business, as we mentioned before, the strategic level of the management is the man's opportunity, the man's part. So the client is one person and the manager is another person. And how to compare 1 and 2? Everything is very interesting and great, and it sounds very, very right in a political sense. But why the higher hierarchy level of the management, the less we see women in this hierarchy? Because the graduates of universities, women are more on 54% than men, and in the Russian corporates, there are just 8% of women. And I should mention here that in the Russian Federation, we have one of the leading positions in the world on women among leaders and management. More than 41% of leading positions are taken by women in Russian Federation, and they study our experience. How do we manage this? So we have our fields of growth, and we have our points of growth, but we also have something to teach. And it's one important moment here about McKinsey research. What influence that the women can come to the higher point of the management system is the timing and that women should come to work, for example, as a specialist, as a manager, and more often she stays as a manager. But why does this happening? We can talk about the glass ceiling in some of moments, but what is more important is one phenomenon which is called sticky floor. In the world, we have a manpower wheel, and the women, for example, apply to higher position with the higher salary, only in that case if everything that is put in the description of the position she has. And the man applied to a new position, so participate in the competition, so to say, only if he's at least 60% meets the requirements of this vacancy. And this is the effect when the woman is practically fell out from the competition, and she's just waiting for her prince to come and save her. But when she's suggested to have a higher position, and this is the very huge difference in the examples, according to the research of Vienna School. If the woman is proposed, for example, to move to another location, in the same company. Generally, women say no because, and then there is a list of family factors. Man in the same situation says yes, and then offer to his family to adopt to the situation. And this effect, when the woman don't take the risks. So this is this is how women treat risks, and this is the example of the startups is the same as when I mentioned the management and the startups of the women. Boston Group made the research of the same topic. So the women involve less investments, and if they accept more investments, that they have a high level of experience. When we have a balance in the gender balance in the team, it's a good opportunity to go to the next level of efficiency. And this is a very actual and hot topic in our country and in any part of the world. That is why I'm sure that the initiative that we discussed today from all our speakers from creative industries, our program Women of Leaders, I want to thank Norris Nickel for this very interesting topic and everything that is supported in the women leadership and women programs. I think that we have a very good potential in growth, especially nowadays. This is the topic that we need. It is needed by everyone. Thank you, Veronica. I would like to ask a small question to Evgenia. We just discussed about gender balance in teams. How do you think in all majors do we need to have this balance? I'm asking because Norris Nickel is a man company. I would say, for example, work in the field. And I think that Norris Nickel customers are not women, they're mostly men, I think. How do you think in all companies, do we need this gender balance in all companies and to form these companies? And to form this gender balance teams?
Well, first of all, исследований, статистики, как говорится,
I wouldn't say anything against the statistics and the research. The previous speaker brightly described all the facts, and it's very difficult to say something against and to argue with that. But generally, we need to find some clever balance in men and women. What can I say about my company? In our management positions, in our group, is 40% of women on management positions and leader positions. Among top management of the company, 24% of women. I think for a metallurgical company, it's a very serious number. And yes, climbing the career steps in men team it's more difficult. But if a woman has all competences and all skills and management skills, if she invests in herself, has strong character and knows what she wants, I think that everything is possible. And I myself started from the level of the management in the aluminium factory in Murmansk Oblast till Moscow to Nornickel company. So I climbed all these way up, and everything is possible if you have everything in yourself and if you know your aims, if you see your purpose. Evgenia, thank you very much. And now I would like to come back again to Veronika, to her speech. And she told us about sticky floor. It's one of the most common barriers when we build in a career. You also mentioned about the glass ceiling. Maybe we create a question. Quick questions, if you face this, or if you have ever heard that these barriers are existed, we will discuss how to overcome it.
Well, I would say that, I personally, with my career way, I can say that the effect of sticky floor, I had it only on the inside, but when I somehow just clenched and I decided, well, I must try. And then just when I decided to, and all those LEDs, they just worked out and I achieved results. I can provide one example. Once when I was as a delegate on a TES forum, I just had this let's intention, and so just for the first time in my life, a project from Moscow in Peru on the worldwide stage. And then just eventually it became one of the Russian initiatives that was supported by China and the USA. So you basically managed to get over the sticky floor. Well, Larissa, what do you think? Well, I would like to say that when it comes to leadership, this is something about psychology. So leadership is a competence, something that you can learn to do. Well, and since I've been an entrepreneur for 25 years, and the same as Mariana told, so on the one hand, I agree with the points, and on the other hand, I protest against everything. So I know that the ability to risk is something more typical for women from my point of view. And actually, I think that the biggest barrier on the one hand is on the inside, but on the other hand is our surrounding just the pressure from the outside, just because they try, just they have the best on their mind. Our men, our husbands, they start blocking us through their fears. This is the most complicated thing for me. You have to fight on the inside with your fears, but you also have to fight on the outside with the pressure that is just there because of several reasons. But at the same time, the most important point for me when I had to make a decision is something on the inside. So can I live without it? If I understand that I'm ready to risk, and for example, my condition says, yes, I can lose everything, but I'm ready to go for it, then I will definitely go for it. But for women, it's really important to do something. They have to choose themselves over the stereotypes, over the pressure. Great. So, sticky floor stereotypes from the outside. Masha, what about you? What did you have to face? I've been thinking about it, and I'm listening attentively to my colleagues that we are communicating with. As for the sticky floor, just when it comes to my career, I didn't have anything like that. Though I have several children, I have 3 kids. I think that just the more kids you have, it seems to me that the more kids I had, the brighter my career was. But when it comes to glass ceiling, yeah, I can agree. Something Veronica talked about, I agree with her to 100%. So our over-perfectionism towards ourselves, towards our qualities, competences, experience that we have. And as I've already mentioned, women and men as well, in fact, one of the strongest qualities has both downsides and the positive aspects. For example, women are more likely to are prone to self-development. And just the idea of women when they say, well, I just need to do a bit more, to be a bit more professional. So I need to do a bit more, and then I will be able to take the post. This is truly something that women do. And this is the confidence that women need, that they need to develop inside. There is one more interesting phenomenon. I don't know if you've heard about it or not, but I really like it. It's a new trend, and it's been studied recently, the phenomenon of a glass mount. So this concept says that women are more often invited for management positions when a company has a crisis situation. So women are more effective on the one hand in crisis situations because she can collect herself. And from this point of view, the research carried out by the companies with women managers actually proved the theory to be true. When the companies in the crisis situation and the team as well, they need to be motivated, inspired, they need team buildings, and this is just one of the strongest women's qualities. But on the other hand, something that I read about the phenomenon of the glass mount, well, just when the woman is in the crisis and then the woman actually manages to save the company. So what's so cool about it? Yeah, just it can be done with the help of a man as well. So just this is something interesting. I advise you to take a look at this phenomenon. So just you got stuck to the floor, just hit your head on the glass ceiling, and then just got stuck on the glass mount. So what else can you say, Anush? Well, from the professional point of view, I think that we don't have any problems with it. Well, if I wanted something, if I wanted to achieve something in the life, and if I truly wanted it, I actually managed to achieve all of my aims. I've never had any problems, barriers, just something like somebody tried to give setbacks or that something didn't work out. Never ever have I expected anything like that. Moreover, I can actually say that just there are 2 cultures. I am a representative of just several cultures and our company, and we've never had any problems. Well, the problem does exist. Sorry, we have a technical issue. I suppose we have some kind of a technical issue. Well, while it being solved, Mariana, will you perhaps tell about your barriers in as an entrepreneur? Well, I've been thinking about my sticky floor, and I did have it. And I actually had two problems that have been discussed today. On the one hand, I was brought up in the Soviet Union, and I had the mathematical education, and I was supposed to become a scientist. And then, and I just held really tight. I just wanted it because of that mentality and the education. It was just impossible to imagine that you can become an entrepreneur. Just the word itself didn't exist. Because when I was brought up, I did hear the word, but I didn't really apply it to myself. I didn't have an idea of becoming an entrepreneur. And living in that world, it was impossible that there is a different world. And this was exactly the sticky floor that held me, because I was stuck to the university and to everything. But at some point, it happened just a really long time ago. I've been an entrepreneur for 20 years. I'm a true entrepreneur. And when I say that there are no women in startups, I don't say that there are no women whatsoever. I just say that the percentage of them is minor. And I am a woman who created startups in a male atmosphere. How do I say it? I had to fight on fields. And when we worked in the sphere of security, so chemical security, I got used to the fact that when we had meetings, I was the only woman. Well, there are definitely positive aspects. For example, everyone remembers you because you're the only woman, and then just everyone says, hello, Mariana, but I don't remember their names because, well, there are lots of men. Well, it works, but it's an exception. It's not so common. Well, there are some reasons for this. And I'm sure that this was my sticky floor just because I held really tight to the idea that I had to be in that sphere, in the technical sphere. I'm sorry, but I just spent 17 years for my education. I just really fought for it. So, is that the end? This was my sticky floor, and I had to fight, and I was so scared. Just having no future, having no salary. But it works. 10 years. I've just realized that I studied 10 years as well, not taking everything into account that you can't get a diploma for. Well, Anosh, welcome back. Just we stopped at the point that you were brought up in a bicultural surrounding. Yeah, sorry, I just had some problems with my connection. I just wanted to say that I grew up in a bicultural surrounding. I moved from Armenia to Moscow and at Moscow State University. Studied, and I never had any problems with realizing my aims. But obviously barriers exist. From my point of view, the main barrier is the traditions, the gender roles that we have in our country. So you see, we want to be entrepreneurs, but we also want to be related to our gender role. We want to create comfort at home. And the idea of home management belongs to us, and it's on us. So, and if we take a woman, a manager woman, so she's an entrepreneur, it's one of the main points, just her business is one of the most important things in her life. But on the other hand, she has to manage her family as well. And at this point, the woman finds herself at a crossroads and she has to choose. Well, on the one hand, you definitely can just build your life in such a way that to separate family and business so that they help each other. But from my point of view, it's a really hefty barrier, just because the woman has to somehow understand, well, if to choose, so what does she have to choose, the family or business? For example, I personally didn't have any problems with this issue. But still, globally, it's a problem. There is a nice example mentioned by Tatiana Vakulchuk, who managed to solve the problem. Yeah, we talk about balance, and this is a perfect example of such a balance. For example, in fashion industry, there are numerous successful women. In startups, I also visit a lot of startup competitions, scientific startups in the fashion industry, and then just women are really the power of this industry, and they just, for example, women who have their objectives, who have clear objectives, who want to achieve everything, they do everything on time, they have fire in their eyes, they're really enthusiastic about it. It's just something really worth fighting for. And it's something what Larissa talked about, when from the inside you understand that you can't live without it. Veronica, I would like to add that to the topic of barrier that Anush mentions, so a balance between the business and family, and something you can't live without. Let's think. So, to what degree has our household been automatized within the last 30 years? And according to the research, a working woman who works nowadays spends more time with her children than a woman, than a housewife 30 years ago. So the more automatized our household is, the more energy a woman has to actually create more, to work and create something new. And as for risks, there is a nice phrase applicable to crisis situations that was said by Christine Lagarde, that if instead of Lehman Brothers we knew Lehman Sisters, perhaps the situation would have been different.
Veronica, thank you very much. It's a very good quote, and I would like to step back a bit when we started the question what barriers we have and how to overcome this. So we have a sticky floor, we have a glass ceiling, we have a glass mountain, and we choose between the profession and the family. And I think that everything that we talk about, these are problems inside us. And these problems inside us, how to overcome this. More often we don't have a mentor, something like a mentor or coach who can help us, can give us an advice or push us or like, unstuck our foot and to launch this career path. So, in the program Women Leader, how do you teach women to overcome such barriers that we talked about? And what do you think about the role of the mentorship and coaches in the professional activity? I think that the power of the coaches and the leadership and the tutorship is very important. The institution of the tutorship now is growing again, and support of the women is very important nowadays to achieve their goals. I already mentioned that we pack our knowledges in our projects, and we teach them how to do this. Women mostly choose educational projects or in the sphere of education, because education and is our somehow characteristics that are inside us that each woman have. And there are also, of course, other interesting fields that women go to, but rarely, and they're afraid sometimes. First of all, what we need to do is inform women. We have speakers who talk about sustainable development and other social initiatives, the social projects that we have. have that are ready to support them. On the other hand, everything that you told about this tutorship and coaches in different institutions, we call it different names, maybe with a little bit of difference in functions, but the main task of the tutor is to be next to support, to show respect and to answer questions, and to help in any challenges, or help if you have to have a step forward and you're afraid a little bit of this. Tutorship is more of a women management scheme. We don't have to give some proper comments on this because we discussed about during the session about this with our colleagues. So I think that we group these skills and we group it as a definition in mixed in alternatives, knowing how to change, how to switch from other profession to another. For example, that the woman is a mother and daughter at the same time. They're more passionate and according to their nature. And having a tutorship or curator or something like a tutor for women who are studying at this program and graduating from this program is most important. So communication with the tutor continue after the program. The women ask for support and they create communication. So in Sanish workshops, we have different programs in tutorship. We also have a most important program is independent program that we implement since 2018 together with Club of Leaders of Russia, Elbrus, and now graduates from this program who already graduated 422 people. Last year we launched 6 years of this program, 6 part. And now it's 338 pairs that are educated according to this program. It's a record, somehow a record for us. And we already applied to set this record set this pair of pairs in the records of Russia. Maria, thank you very much. I would like to add that it's more important that women leaders who graduate from this program who studied in this tutorship program, they started to realize how important it is to have a tutor. And when they come back to their cities, when they come back to their workplaces, they become a tutor for someone else. And I think we would like to educate all of these women in Russia through the program of Women Leader, but of course it's impossible. But we would like to these all women have this impetus to a new life, because we don't have a lot of tutors, don't have enough tutors for everyone. So I would like to continue tutorship topic. Larissa and Mariana, you have a very good experience in working with entrepreneurs. How do you see the role of tutor in forming new women managers?
Well, yeah, we have just a great gender balance in terms of management. We have 50% of high management, both men and women. And I'm inspired by the phrase, when women do not compete, they actually strengthen each other. And mentoring and this cooperation, when something helps, this is something that helps us achieve more, the better. And it is expressed through several aspects, especially in our company. And I can notice vice presidents of strategic initiatives, my colleague Tatiana Kravaeva. So just she's organizing her mentoring in a women-like way. First of all, it's involvement and active cooperation. So all decisions are taken together, they are discussed. The third aspect is open information, so informing everyone about what's going on and how it's going on. What's more, it's something that is important for women, is appraising women, and then just you have to say, you have to let a woman know that she's respected and that she's an important part of the company. It's an important issue because women often suffer from the fact that they are not appraised, that nobody appreciates what they suggest, and women managers and head CEOs, it's really important for them to articulate and just to appraise, to approve of what the other women do. So another point is that a woman is always trying to inspire interest in what people do. Just not like, so there is interest, but also why do we do it, how is it going to look, just about the results. It's another important aspect. And everyone, I guess, has already mentioned it, but still women are more prone to creating the atmosphere of trust. And the thing that I see in our strategic development center, in all my projects that I've realized as an entrepreneur, and I worked in 45 cities, and just a huge audience of 1 million women involved in different programs, educational programs. It's truly something, it's the most important thing. Just when we cooperate, we can create more. Once again, I want to repeat that when women do not compete, they become better. So, Mariana, could you please tell us about the role of mentoring in entrepreneurship? So, entrepreneurs do need mentors. They need a person who can tell them, don't be afraid, go and tell. Well, just usually people who become entrepreneurs, they don't really have any experience, and they just don't know how to do it, and they finally they just live their life, and then suddenly, oh, I need to make a startup. And definitely they need a person who will be able to support them, not just from the professional point of view, but also from the humane point of view. And it's not always that people lack something from the professional point of view, like education. You can learn it, you can get it from a million of places. You can teach, you can learn it from the internet. There are numerous courses that you'll be invited to. But when it comes to something related to just being human, I just love the word mentor. Yes, we do need mentors. Okay, thank you a lot. I think that the Institute of Mentoring and Support it means that women need to develop not only when you are already a professional, but so these things should be presented at school already. And it's important to have something like this in engineers spheres. Just we've already mentioned about barriers that people are faced with at work. And just it's not only about work, it's also about just schoolgirls. Just a girl thinks, well, I'm a humanitarian and I don't know maths, and I just I want to be an artist, but I will never be related to robotics, for example. So the situation is that I'm mentioning, it's something about that was going on 10 years ago, but even now we face something like at school, when it comes to 5th grade, there is a balance of 50-50 to humanities and technical specialties. And when it comes to graduating, so to finish in school, so there are more guys who are interested in technical spheres. And then just something related to chemistry is something for women. But as for the barriers, they start appearing at universities, and especially at universities. It's just my daughter, she's facing the problem that being a chemist, being in the chemistry, she needs a mentor because there are more guys. But unfortunately, in our universities, the system of so just the idea a woman physician, just a woman mathematician, it's not developed. So when she's asked, "Who are you going to be after graduating?" she just says, "I'm going to organize events," just because at this point she doesn't have a mentor from this sphere, from chemistry, who would actually support her intentions. And there are many women like this who would like to be involved in technical spheres and who didn't go for their dream just because they got stuck to the sticky floor. And then just we have only 3 minutes left. That's why, being a moderator, I would like to I have already managed our talk, but I would also like to make some conclusions. First of all, we tried to understand if the phenomenon of leadership exists whatsoever, or whether it's something artificial, just something from the modern world. But I guess throughout our discussion, we actually figured out that there are some characteristics that are more typical for women leaders than men leaders. And these characteristics, they are strong, especially they are applicable to special situations, when something related to chaos, something when you need to organize in the situations of transformation, but they are less applicable in especially risky situations. So the second point we talked about is corporate government. We talked about the statistics. We realized that through managers, through women managers, there are less women managers than men managers. And still, we concluded that most likely a gender-balanced team, both in small business and in big business, can be more effective than from the point of view of the economic development and growth. I would like to once again strike this theory. So we're not talking about just gender equality as such, but we're talking about it from the point of view of its economic efficiency, just because it's really important when forming the new economic now. And then we talked about barriers and how they can be overcome, and we realized that barriers are inside our head and they can be overcome through the Institute of Mentoring, with the help of the Institute of Mentoring. I think this is a nice link that we have found out. I thank all of the speakers for this wonderful discussion and all our viewers, listeners, guests of this event for participating with us. Thank you a lot.
Открой Енисейскую Сибирь.
Что это вообще?
Енисейскую Сибирь.
Норникель. Для достижения показателей улавливания серы на уровне лучших мировых практик мы реализуем комплексную серную программу 2.0. Запуск установок по улавливанию и утилизации диоксида серы позволит снизить выбросы вредных соединений в атмосферу Норильского промышленного района примерно в 10 раз. Основные объекты серной программы строятся на Медном заводе и Надеждинском металлургическом заводе. На Медном заводе в 2021 году ведутся подготовительные работы. Модернизируется передел очистки газов от пыли, выполняется монтаж оборудования, идет разработка проектной документации. Масштабная стройка на Надеждинском металлургическом заводе стартовала в 2020 году с подготовки площадки под комплекс новых технологических линий. Чтобы фундаменты для будущих цехов и промышленного оборудования были надежными и долговечными, строители снимали грунт до скального основания. 2021 год – активная фаза строительства. Единовременно возводятся 15 объектов серной программы, включая участок производства серной кислоты, склад серной кислоты, здание приема и дробления известняка, здание приготовления известнякового молока и здание отделения нейтрализации серной кислоты. Для приема и долгосрочного хранения нейтрального продукта, гипсовой пульпы, обустраивается гипсохранилище. Работы на объектах идут в режиме 24/7. Строители закрывают контуры зданий, ведут монтаж оборудования, металлоконструкций и инженерных систем в новых заводских корпусах. Серная программа – самый важный проект компании из всех, которые мы реализуем на сегодняшний день. Это улучшение состояния окружающей среды, повышение уровня жизни людей и репутации Норникеля.